Does low-frills off-roading appeal to you? Well, the Suzuki Jimny's a pretty good place to start. It's lightweight, affordable, features coil springs all round, even has low-range gearing and a manual transmission. But it's 2020 and none of what I've just mentioned is in any way new or modern. Which leads me to think, has low-frills off-roading progressed at all? Well, let's take a look at one of the pioneers and find out. Winning hearts around the world from its ridiculously adorable looks, the 2020 Suzuki Jimny's DNA dates back to the original Suzuki LJ10 of the early 1970s. Unlike its great relative, the Jimny sits on a ladder frame chassis and features solid axles, front and rear. So it's fair to say, it's pretty old school. Conversely, more modern SUVs use an integrated monocoque chassis and independent front suspension. More modern SUVs like the Lada Niva. Originally launched in Russia in 1977, the Niva was the first mass-produced, modern-style 4x4 and remains in production largely unchanged to this day. There are coil springs all round, independent front and a live axle rear, but despite much of it being based on Fiat components developed in the 1960s, was the Niva actually ahead of its time? To see just how far things have come though, we're going to test the flexibility of these two by measuring their ramp travel index. Then we'll strap them together and see how modern low-range gearing fares against 35-year-old Russian tractor tyres. Now you can read the full comparison between the Jimny and the Niva on caradvice.com. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with all our latest videos. Hit the bell icon to receive a notification every time a new video is published, and hit us up in the comments below with any questions, suggestions or comparisons that you would like to see. An RTI or ramp travel index is a way of measuring suspension flex. You put the front left wheel on the ramp and drive forward until the rear tyre on the same side lifts off the ground. The index is the distance travelled up the ramp divided by the vehicle's wheelbase, all multiplied by 1,000. For this test, our ramp is at a 10-degree angle. To add some context, we measured the RTI of this Ford Ranger Raptor, which travelled 230 centimetres up the ramp and has a wheelbase of around 3.2 metres, for an RTI of 736. First up, the Suzuki. Now, solid front axles offer a simple and robust off-road solution, and it makes suspension repairs and modifications quite a bit easier. But while effective, solid axles tend to be heavier and less flexible than independent setups. On our ramp, the Jimny travelled 163 centimetres over a wheelbase of 225 centimetres for a result of 724. Lower than the Raptor, but not too far off, the shorter wheelbase here helping the overall result. Now the Niva with its 43-year-old independent double wishbone setup. It might not be as customisable as the Jimny, but the IFS design offers more controlled behaviour in broader conditions. To the ramp, well, surprisingly, the little Lada managed 182 centimetres against a 2.2 metre wheelbase, which is better even than the Raptor, resulting in an RTI of 827. We even tried it backwards, where the solid axle offered even more flex to deliver an RTI of 845, showing that the added travel in the Niva's coil springs and the short wheelbase still make it a clever little truck nearly half a century on. That's even a little bit further. 196. Hey! All right, you're up. Well, it's our final test, and what better way to see how low-frills off-roading has come than to tie the two guys together. Here with the Jimny, we have modern fuel-injected power, low-range gearing, but on-road biased tyres. Whereas over here, we have a 1960s-era carburetted Fiat engine, but very strong all-terrain Russian tractor tyres. Let's see just how far things have come. In 3, 2, 1, go! Now it's getting anywhere. Stop! Well, that was a lot of fun, and while we didn't get a concise winner in the tug of war, the Lada held its own against a much more modern car. That said, the standard suspension articulation from the monocoque chassis and independent front and live axle rear on the Niva outperformed the Jimny on our ramp test. The Jimny, though, is much quieter, more comfortable, and the brakes actually work, saying that maybe the advances that we've made have not been in flexing and tugging, but perhaps in creature comforts instead. Now, you can read the full comparison of the Suzuki Jimny against the Lada Niva at caradvice.com. As always, hit subscribe to stay up to date with all of our latest reviews, comparisons, and old versus new tests. Let us know in the comments below what you'd like to see us do next. Now, for me, I'm going to continue my nostalgic trip of the day and drive this one home, because it's mine.